in the Realms of Mediumship by Chico Francisco Candido Xavier and inspired by the spirit Andre Luis. Chapter 22, Emerging from the Past. We went with Aulas to the second weekly meeting of the group, presided over by Raul Silva, whose organization merited the sympathy and trust of our instructor. The team of workers had not changed its usual composition. The small group of obsessed persons, however, was different this time. 2 women, followed by their respective husbands, and a worn-out gentleman were part of the group that would receive assistance. The Spiritist Center's mediums were involved in their loving task, using their abilities to help many spirits lost in the darkness and suffering. Donna Selina's effective collaboration led the work. After various problems related to the night's schedule were solved, one of the afflicted women fell into convulsive tears, exclaiming, "Help me! Somebody please help me!" And pressing her chest with her hands, she added in a moving tone, "Coward! Why stab a defenseless woman? I am completely to blame? My blood will condemn your wretched name." With his usual serenity, Raoul approached her and consoled her caringly. "Dear sister, forgiveness is the remedy that restores our sick soul. Don't let desperation overpower your strength. To hold on to offenses is to remain in darkness. Let's forget evil so that light of the good may enter our path." "Forget? Never! Do you know what it's like to have a knife plunged into your flesh? Do you know the wretchedness of a man who takes over your existence to cast you into misery and then takes pleasure in spilling your blood?" Yes. No one's denying your right to justice, from what you're saying. But wouldn't it be wiser to wait for divine goodness to pronounce sentence? Who among us is without sin? Wait. I've been doing nothing but wait. In vain I have been trying to regain my happiness. No matter how much I try to cut off the past, I can't get rid of my memories. I'm like someone carrying a tomb of dead dreams in her chest. All because of him. All because of the wretch who ruined my life." The poor creature broke into sobs while a discarnate man, not far away, gazed at her with inexpressible sadness. Perplexed, Ilario and I looked questioningly at the assistant, who perceived our puzzlement. The troubled patient, immersed in afflictive suffering, was not accompanied by the invisible woman she seemed to be personifying. "I can't see the spirit whom our sister is communicating," said Ilario. "Me either," I said in turn. "I can see a sad, discarnate man nearby, but if he is telepathically linked to our friend here, surely the message would describe the words linked to a man, without the characteristics associated with a woman. In fact, we can't see any magnetic ties that would indicate any teledynamic fluids acting on the medium's mind." Alice caressed the patient's tear-covered face as if he were analyzing her thoughts. He explained, "We are dealing with our friend's past. The sorrow and bitterness, as well as the supposedly alien personality she's exteriorizing, all originate from herself. Due to the proximity of a past enemy who continues to persecute her from our plane, she is reliving a dolorous experience that took place in a city in the old world last century, causing her enduring melancholy. She recommenced the struggle in the flesh in her present reincarnation filled with new hopes. However, as soon as she senses the presence of the spirit of her old persecutor, who is connected to her through the strong ties of love and hate, it disturbs her mental life in need of a fuller re-education. This is a case that involves an invaluable lesson." "So, that means—" Ilario's sentence was left hanging in the air because Aulas completed his thought. "It means that our sister has tied up a huge amount of resources from her emotive world around this past experience, to the point that such mental crystallization has overpowered the biological shock of rebirth in the physical world and continues almost intact. Fixated on that memory, when the man who used to be her imprudent tormentor comes near, she begins acting as if she were still in the past that she insists on reviving. That is when she takes on the different personality, the one that refers to her former life." Smiling paternally, he pondered. "Unquestionably, at such times she is someone who has returned from the past to communicate with the present. Under the influence of the painful memories that assail her, she centralizes all her mnemonic resources solely on the neuralgic point where she has fixated her thought. To the ordinary psychiatrist, she is merely a candidate for insulin or electroshock therapy, but to us, she is a spiritual patient, a tormented conscience, demanding moral and educational assistance for her inner renewal, the only solid basis that will ensure her definitive readjustment. I analyzed her carefully and concluded. Mediumistically speaking, this is an authentic case of animism. Our friend believes she is incarnating a different personality, when in fact, she is only exteriorizing her own inner world. So, could we classify this case as unconscious mystification? Interrupted Ilario. Alice thought for a minute and responded. Many individuals working in the establishment of the new era under the auspices of Spiritism are turning the animist theory into an unjustifiable constraint that paralyzes invaluable opportunities for accomplishing the good. Therefore, we cannot use the words unconscious or subconscious mystification to label this phenomenon correctly. In reality, the manifestation derives directly from our friend's own sentiments flung back into the past, from where she gathers the depressing impressions that take her over and which she externalizes wherever she is at the time. The poor woman acts almost like a perfect somnambulist, for she concentrates fully on her past remembrances, as if she were focusing all the energies of her memory on one single wound, entirely unconcerned about the responsibilities of her present reincarnation. We are looking at a mentally ill person requiring the greatest attention for her recovery. To remedy her problem, however, complex diagnosis or mere technical definitions aren't enough unless coupled with the warmth of heartfelt assistance. Alice paused briefly to soothe the patient. As Raul Silva continued to instruct and console her, Alice told us kindly, she should be treated with the same attention given to the suffering spirits who communicate. She, too, is an immortal spirit in need of our attention and understanding, in order for her harmony to be restored. The idea of a mystification would perhaps lead us to a disrespectful attitude regarding her mental suffering. Hence, in such circumstances, we have to fill our hearts with love in order to understand and be of help. A counselor without fraternal tact would only aggravate her problem, since under the pretext of serving the truth, he or she would perhaps impose an unsuitable corrective measure instead of providential assistance. First, it is necessary to remove the illness, and after that, to strengthen the victim to enable her to defend herself. Fortunately, Raul assimilates the spiritual currents that prevail here and has become the ideal caregiver for situations like this. Ilario, edified as much as I was with the lesson, asked respectfully, "Can we consider her a medium nonetheless?" "Why not? A defective vessel can be repaired and restored to service. Of course, patience and charity need to be activated to assist her. Our sister must be listened to in the condition she's in, as if she were, in fact, that unfortunate woman of bygone times. She must be received by us as such, so that she can use the moral remedy we offer her and finally break from the past. This would not be contradictory, because the former woman undoubtedly still exists within her. The old personality was not as eclipsed by dense matter as would have been desirable. She was reborn in the flesh without renewing herself in spirit." The assistant seemed to immerse his thoughts in the depths of his own consciousness, and then continued, as if speaking to himself. "She is the portrayal of thousands of other souls. How many beggars drag around the tattered cloak of the ephemeral aristocracy they wore in the past? How many, enslaved by poverty and suffering, bring with them the vanity and pride of the powerful masters they once were in times past? How many souls, led to be born into the same family, travel from cradle to grave bearing invisible sores of aversion and hatred toward their own kin, who used to be their cruel adversaries in prior lives? All of us can fall into similar situations if we do not learn to cultivate forgetfulness of evil and advance continually in tandem with the good. At this point, Raul Silva, as a skillful psychologist, invited the patient to the benefits of prayer. It was up to her to beseech heaven for the grace to forget. It was up to her to expunge the past from her mind in order to find peace. Highly moved, he invited her to say with him the sublime words of the Lord's Prayer. The poor woman accompanied him meekly. After the prayer, she seemed more peaceful. Translating the assistant's collaboration, Raul benevolently asked her to consider that, to find peace once again, it was important, above all, to forgive her enemies. In tears, the patient disconnected herself from the impressions of the past and returned to her normal state. While she received comforting passes from Silva, the assistant remarked, "This is all the assistance we can give her for now. With the appropriate spiritual therapy, she will readjust herself little by little, regaining her self-control and preparing herself for invaluable mediumistic work later on." We would have liked to continue analyzing the case. However, another female patient unexpectedly fell into an agitated trance, and we had to proceed with our studies, making the best of it.